Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on my channel. In today's video, we'll be doing a boot unboxing. I haven't done one of these in my channel for a long while, I believe since August of 2024, because I kind of grew out of love with collecting football boots, and right now I'm at a point where I kind of know what I want if I'm going to buy a pair of boots. Pretty much sticking to Nike Mercurials because that's what I've worn throughout my entire career, throughout my entire life. I used to buy boots because I wanted to kind of try everything and kind of, just get into that boot reviewing space. But I've kind of realized it's just not for me. And a lot of the boots that I've bought over the years that aren't Mercurials, I don't end up using that much anyways. They are nice pieces to have in my collection, but I just don't really care for them. So yeah, that's why the boot reviews have been gone for a while, but I finally picked up a pair of boots. This boot in particular being the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1 RGN or Regen Special Edition Remake in the Shock Orange colorway. So without further ado, let's just open this up. I've already moved the paper and all that stuff out of the way because I kind of used this for some filming earlier. As you can see, here are the boots. This is the right boot. Looks absolutely fantastic. And then here's the left one. Again, just a great looking boot. Something that's not really coming out on camera is the kind of sparkles that are in the upper. I think it looks really phenomenal. It makes the colorway kind of pop even more than just a flat orange. But I don't know. To me, it doesn't look like it's coming through that much on camera, but maybe to you guys it'll look a little better. But yeah, that's the boots. Put those to the side. And then over here, we have the string bag. And if I kind of put the box down for a second, you guys can see from the string bag, you have the original Nike logo, or original Nike football logo. As you guys will know now, it's usually just the words, but before, this was a Nike football logo for, I believe, the 1990s, maybe a little bit of the 80s, and then like the early 2000s. So on this string bag, you get kind of just like the Nike football logo and nothing else, just a plain orange string bag. Whereas with the modern day string bags, you'd have like Mercurial on the front, maybe something on the back, but this is just pure clean and orange. And then with regards to the box, as you guys can see, this is a size 11 in the Shock Orange and White colorway, men's 11 in the US/Canada, UK 10, Britain 43. Pretty cool. Mercurial Vapor 1 RGN SE. I really like the box actually because this is the box that you would have received back in the day if you got the boots in 2002 when they originally released. And I think it looks really good. So it's really nice to have something unique, something with a bit more color and flair to it, apart from the traditional silver or orange boxes that we get today. It's just very nice and just a really good detailed box to have. So I really like that. Without further ado, the way this review or unboxing is going to work is that we're going to look at the history of the Vapor 1, and then we're going to kind of go into the tech specs of the Vapor 1 RGN, kind of see what's different, or what's kind of changed, what's remained the same. And then we'll have an on-feet portion and then some final thoughts to kind of wrap it up. There's a lot to get into about these boots, so I'm not going to waste any more time yapping. Let's just get straight into it. So let's start by looking at what exactly these remakes are based off of. And it's pretty clear they're based off of the Mercurial Vapor 1. Originally released in 2002, this boot was revolutionary and honestly groundbreaking for the football boot world because it was the first boot to be lighter than 200 grams. Most boots back then, were pretty heavy because of their construction and the materials that were used. But this boot, which was designed off of a Sprinter spike, was designed to kind of bridge that gap to kind of make boots feel lighter and make you feel faster when you're playing with them on the pitch. So that's what Nike decided to do when they made the Mercurial Vapor 1. In terms of the silhouette and the actual boot, I'll go into some brief tech specs about it. The upper material you had on that boot was Nike skin. Although for those of you who may remember Nike skin from some of the Hypervenom models from, 2013 up until 2017 when they dropped the Hypervenom Phantom 3 and that went to the Flyknit variation, but some of the takedowns also had Nike skin. That Nike skin is completely different to what you got on the Vapor 1. It completely evolved and changed over time. If anything, the Nike skin that you got from the Vapor 1 is more similar to the Tasian synthetic that you got from, the Vapors leading up to the Vapor 11. And it was more so a synthetic leather because back then most boots used leather for their upper material. But this Nike skin was more of a synthetic leather to kind of reduce weight and also reduce porosity and also increase water resistance and little things like that. People say it was stiff. I'll never know because I never got to own a pair. but it was stiff and kind of took some time to break in, but that was, besides the point. Some other cool features about the boot was that it had a glove-like fit. It was made on a track spike last, of course. So it's supposed to be vacuum fitting, super tight to the foot, and, just really lock you in. So you get that sensation of speed when you're maneuvering. And you don't have any heel slippage or foot rollover or any of those issues when you're trying to run really quickly. Now, by those standards, like back then, it was absolutely groundbreaking and revolutionary, as I mentioned. But by today's standards, it is an absolutely abhorrent boot, comfort wise, even though it still meets weight requirements due to the fact that it broke the 200-gram mark. It is absolutely one of the most uncomfortable football boots you can wear in today's day and age from all accounts that I've heard. And like, honestly, it's more of sort of a torture device than anything. The main issues would be in the heel area. There was absolutely no padding and there's no moisture wicking like material really to kind of help with rubbing of the foot against the heel area. And also because it was sculpted and super narrow and super tight, it meant that only certain people could wear them with like narrow feet. So if you had average feet or maybe even wider feet and you tried to like force yourself to wear the boots because you liked them, you would get some of the worst blistering on your feet that you would ever experience. It was just not the right kind of experience, honestly. And honestly, when I look at some of the blisters and like pictures and the way the boots looked back then, and I compare them to the stuff I wear today, I'm like, how the hell did people even put up with those boots? Like, again, those are the times, right? So that is what it is. It was made most popular by Ronaldo Nazario or R9, and the most popular colorway of this football boot was actually the Chrome Limes, which were released for Ronaldo Nazario specifically at the 2002 World Cup. Which brings me to the whole purpose of this pack. So if you guys have noticed, this is not the first or even the second Vapor 1 RGN that has dropped. There have been 3 boots in the collection. This one is actually the last colorway. There was a silver and lime version or chrome lime version meant to recreate the chrome limes made for Ronaldo Nazario back in 2002. Then the second colorway was called the Dark Cinder colorway, with the official colorway being Dark Cinder and Maize. And those boots were made to kind of pay homage to Cristiano Ronaldo, who wore the boots when he made his debut for Sporting against Inter Milan. I believe it was a Champions League match, if I have my history correct, at the age of 17. And this was on August 14th, 2002. And that day is important because you will see that later when I go over the details of the actual remake. And then after that, you have this boot, which Nike are claiming to be another tribute to Cristiano Ronaldo because I guess he wore this colorway. The only pictures I've seen of him wearing them are from Unisport, actually. They posted in their review of this football boot pictures of Cristiano Ronaldo wearing the original version when he was playing for Sporting and also when he was playing for the Portuguese national team. Some other notable players that Unisport mentioned would be Edgar Davids for the Dutch national team, as well as Marcelinho, who played for Hertha Berlin in Germany. But apart from that, no other players are really known who worn this. There's probably plenty more. It was a general release colorway, but I just wouldn't happen to know those things. So that's it really. But anyways, we've already got 2 remakes with the Chrome Lines and the Dark Cinders. And now this Shock Orange and White variation is the last one that would come out to kind of, I guess, complete that Vapor 1 remake kind of trilogy or whatever you want to call it. Now, that's it really for like the history of the Vapor 1. So for the tech of this Vapor 1 regen or remake, whatever, I'm going to go through it like what I do with all my boot reviews or boot unboxings, starting with the upper. Then we're going to move to the sole plate, then the heel area, or I don't know, in any kind of order really, but we're going to look at the boot one by one in each of its components to give you guys a sense of what's going on. And I think the best place to start with is the exterior with the upper. So the Mercurial Vapor 1 RGN uses Fly Touch Plus. This is not something that is new. It actually features on the Nike Tiempo Legend 10 Elite as the main upper material. And for those of you guys who don't know, or maybe haven't used it yet, it is a synthetic leather material that is supposed to kind of mimic the softness and malleability of leather without giving you the overly stretchy nature and also, the issues with porosity or durability that you get from, a natural leather upper. And the reason why Nike decided to go with Fly Touch Plus as the upper material is because, as I mentioned earlier, the original Vapor 1 had Nike Skin, which was a synthetic leather material. In terms of how it actually feels on feet or on hands, it feels like fly touch from the actual Tiempo Legend 10 Elite, but with a more slick finish. The one from the Tiempo Legend 10 Elite has more of a matte-like finish. At least that's what I feel like to the touch. So this is more slick and feels more like, that Nike skin from back in 2002, or even some of the Tahitian synthetics, which is what Nike skin back then would have evolved into on the Vapors up to the Vapor, 10 and Vapor 11. It's very nice and soft to the touch. And I imagine that being Fly Touch Plus, when you break them in, it'll probably feel fantastic on their feet. So it's not much to really, I guess, expect there besides it being a nice, comfortable and soft upper once you kind of break them in if you decide to use these. In terms of the actual graphics, you have a nice kind of debossed and I guess thermally pressed Nike swoosh, the same as what you would get on the original Vapor 1. This time it's in the white color, pops really well, and honestly, it kind of what allows Nike to keep going back to the side swoosh when they do these new Mercurials, because for me growing up, Mercurial always had the toe swoosh like over here. But the older Vapors always had the side swoosh, and that's why some of the other Mercurial models that you guys may have seen, like the Vapor 15 or the Vapor 14, with some colorways, they had the side swoosh. Even some of the Vapor 16 colorways, like MDS 09, I believe, has the side swoosh because of the heritage of the original Vapor. You also get these waves that are kind of debossed into the upper, and they're supposed to mimic the same wave graphic that you got from the original version. I think it does a good job, but you might notice from pictures I will put up later that the waves kind of crease up a lot earlier, whereas on the original version, they kind of extend further back. And that has to do with the kind of heel construction, which I'll get into when we talk about the heel. Moving to the lacing system, you guys can see it is your standard central lacing system with a U-throat construction. You get a standalone tongue, and it's all put together with these nice orange laces. Now, one cool thing about the tongue is that on the original Vapor, it actually had a lace cover that was really tiny and honestly pretty useless. Nike just put it there, I guess, to put it there. But on this variation, this remake, you actually get that lace cover. So for the Shock Orange colorway, it was a black lace cover. And as you can see, you get the exact same thing on this boot. I can just fold it out. You can see it's black with the white swoosh. Very nice, very good attention to detail, and kind of, again, brings back some authenticity to the remake. I really, really mess with that. I really like that. Then we're going to move to the insole. This is pretty much the exact same insole that you would get from the Mercurial Vapor 16 or the Mercurial Superfly 10 Elite. And that is because the outsole used on that boot, on those boots, is the exact same as this one. So as you can see, the insole here, again, you get that cutout for the air zoom unit that you'll find inside of the sole plate, and then it's just your typical yellow foam. Now moving to the actual sole plate, I mentioned earlier that the date of August 14th, 2002 is very important, as that is the date that Cristiano Ronaldo made his debut as a professional for sporting. And I mentioned that on the cinders, or the dark cinders, whatever you want to call them, this kind of insole was present. It made sense because when Ronaldo made that debut on this date, he was wearing the Mercurial Vapor 1 in the dark cinder colorway. But again, this colorway is not the same one that was used on this date. I don't even think it was released yet when Ronaldo made his debut. So it's kind of just lazy on Nike's part. I've heard some reviewers say that, and I honestly kind of agree. They could have found a better way to kind of tie in the boot, or like maybe a date, if they wanted to, kind of build off of Ronaldo's like history or his legacy or whatever, kind of ties boots into his career journey. But the only reason I can think that they decided to do this, apart from cost-cutting measures, is because Ronaldo wore a Vapor 1 anyways to play in that game. So I guess they're thinking it's still a Vapor 1 remake. And since Ronaldo's the most famous player to wear this football boot, I guess it doesn't really matter. But that's besides the point. It's kind of lazy, but it's also, kind of cool and interesting kind of detail to kind of toss in there. It's whatever. Now we're going to move to probably the most controversial aspect of the football boot, which is the heel area. Now, if you guys have watched most reviews on these boots from, whether it's Noah Kavanagh or Unisport, maybe soccerreviewsforyou.com, Boot Wizard, all fantastic people, by the way. Definitely check out their channels. But if you guys have watched reviews about the Vapor 1 RGN in any colorway, not just this one, you'll notice that they all have the exact same complaint. Let me just shove this back in there for the shape. But they all have the same complaint, and that's that the heel area is just too wide. Now, if you look at pictures of the original Vapor 1 from 2002, you'll see that the heel is a lot more sculpted and it's a lot shallower. From the side profile, at least, that's what you can tell right away. It's a lot shorter towards the back and kind of has more of a shallow kind of lift up. Whereas on this version, you can see that it kind of has like a really steep cup towards the back. And I feel like Nike decided to go with this design element because they want to increase the lockdown of the heel overall. With that shallow like heel cup, I imagine that when you were playing with those boots, if it didn't lock your ankle very well, you're probably slipping and sliding, which probably created some more blister issues. And so by Nike deciding to do this, it's a good idea, I think, for improving the overall fit. And again, that also harkens back to that part I mentioned about the waves. Because it was a lot shorter back there, the waves kind of went back into the boot. But because they've kind of reconstructed the heel area to make it more, I guess, accommodating for more people, they've had to steepen this up, and then the waves have to stop a little short because of where the heel counter, or heel counter in air quotes, is. And I'll get to that in a second. Now, looking at the top-down view, if you guys were to look at the boots, you would see that on the Vapor 1, the heel counter, or not the heel counter, but the heel opening looks a lot more like this. Like, it's very sleek and very like narrow. And that was because, again, the heel area was sculpted and was supposed to keep you locked into the boots when you're playing inside of them. With this boot, the heel area is a lot wider. And obviously that's so that it could be more accommodating and more, accessible to a wide variety of players, which I guess is fine. But for most boot purists or people who grew up with the Vapor 1 or kind of saw how it looked, it's kind of a travesty to them. But also from an actual performance standpoint, a lot of people have complained about issues of like lockdown and actual like heel slippage because there's a lot of dead space from how wide this is. And as a result, people are saying that while the boot looks sleek and, professional in the front, when you get to the back, it just looks and feels clunky and also just kind of bulky and just not proper. In my personal opinion, I don't really mind it. I've heard J Mike from Unisport say that the heel area can be kind of mitigated by wearing grip socks and also by doing the runner's loop, which, as you guys can see, I actually have the runner's loop kind of set up on the laces already, so that when I do the on-feet portion, I can compare the runner's loop side with the non-runner's loop side, which will be that side. But they say if you do that, you can kind of mitigate the kind of lockdown issues and, kind of get around it. So that remains to be seen. I personally have narrow ankles, and regardless of the boots I wear, like whether it's boots with like a one-piece upper construction or like, a standalone tongue, I always get a little bit of dead space around my ankles. Varies depending. I think only two boots. I know only two. Yeah. I believe my Phantom Venoms and both my Phantom GXs leave me no dead space around the ankle. They fit me very well. But apart from that, every other boot I have leaves a little bit of dead space, whether I do a runner's loop or not. So for me, it's not really that big of a deal. Just as long as like when I wear grip socks in the runner's loop, it feels locked in and I'm not getting like a crazy amount of heel slippage, I think I'll be fine with that. And from the looks perspective, I don't mind it. Like, to me, it really doesn't look like chunky or clunky or anything. It looks fine. Like, I don't know. To each their own. Everyone has their own preferences and their own like, subtle enjoyments about what makes a boot look good. And for me, it's not really that. But again, like I said, everyone's different. With the heel area construction, it's more or less the same in terms of the materials that are used. You get a synthetic leather lining the entire heel area, no padding. You just get a kind of higher heel area. And also you get the Vapor 16/Mercurial Superfly 10. You get that internal plastic heel counter that kind of flexes inward to give you a little bit of pressure relief on your heel area. Now, the reason why I meant air quotes when I was talking about the external plastic heel counter is because on the original Vapor 1, that actually had an external plastic heel counter, which was connected to the sole plate. But as I mentioned before, this is the sole plate from the Vapor 16 and Superfly 10. And as you guys have seen from those boots, those do not have an external plastic heel counter. They have an internal plastic one. So in order to kind of give the look of the external plastic heel counter, what Nike did is they took a piece of plastic and just kind of, I guess, thermal pressed it or glued it to the back of the boot and then put that like kind of white overlay at the back to kind of give that illusion that the boot has the external plastic heel counter while not actually having one. And I think they executed it pretty well. It looks pretty good, all things considered. I don't have any original Vapor ones, so I can't really compare how it looks like in person. But I guess from pictures, Nike did a decent job of replicating it, so I can't be too mad about that. And then to kind of finish things off, I'll talk about the sole plate. I won't spend too much time talking about this. If you want to learn more about this sole plate, you can watch either of my videos on the Mercurial Vapor 16 in the electric pack colorway, where I talk in depth about the sole plate and also how it's different from the one on the Vapor 15. But basically, it's an air zoom unit inside, 3/4 length. This is the kind of window that you get to see it. And it's articulated so that when you're stepping on like the ground, you get some kind of pressure relief and cushion depending on how much pressure you're applying in each spot. It does its job very well. It adds a little bit of a slight springy effect, and it feels very good on feet, so I can't complain. Although on some like harder surfaces like 3G turf, it can feel a little awkward and feel like you're kind of like bouncing on a weird cloud, if that makes sense. The actual outsole frame is really good, has good forefoot snapback, good midfoot rigidity, and just feels solid all around. It's a very nice base to have on your feet. And then the traction is, what you expect from a Mercurial. Very aggressive in the forefoot. You get these like kind of arrow fins or whatever they're called. What are they called again? I forgot. I'll put the name up on screen, but they're like these fins that kind of help with activating the air zoom unit, but they also provide a lot of bite in the forward direction. And of course, you get the 4 chevrons in the front for more traction, again, with that straight line speed. And I also like this touch with the studs. So with the original Vapor 1, the studs on this colorway in specific were white. So with this one, they've obviously made them white, so you get that same kind of throwback to the original studs. The only thing I kind of wish they would have done was kind of made the sole plate look more like how it looked on the Vapor 1. Because, it had like more black in the center, and it was more of like not a split sole per se, but it was kind of like a stiffener bar design that ran through the side and then was kind of hollow here. And you had more gray and more like black going on instead of like this kind of solid orange, which, I mean, the closest thing to it, I'd say, in recent times would probably be the sole plate from the Phantom GT and the GT2, because it also had that stiffener bar design and then had like the hollow space on the side. I'll put up a picture as well so you guys can see what I mean. But yeah, apart from that, it's a very solid reimagining. I think it looks really, really good. So without further ado, we're just going to get this on feet. And I'm going to let you guys know how these fit and feel. So let's do it. Yeah, we've got the boots on feet. I've actually decided to turn on the flash so that you guys get a better shot, because my shadow is kind of covering my light right now. But yeah, as you guys can see, the boots fit really well. Now, I want to touch specifically on the heel area. As you guys can see with the way I've laced the boots up, I've done the runner's loop on my right boot, regular lacing on my left, and I also put the tongue on for the left boot and left it off for the right boot, so you guys can kind of see how they look different. So with the runner's loop, I can tell you guys for sure, I'm getting less heel slippage from this boot. And also I'm wearing pure grip socks, which are pretty thick. So yeah, I'm getting less heel slippage from this boot thanks to the runner's loop and the grip socks. Whereas with this boot, I can feel my heel slipping just that slight bit more. It's not really that much. It's kind of a negligible effect, but it's something that you might want to pay attention to if you are deciding on, picking up these remakes. And in terms of dead space, like I've told you guys, it does not really matter for me. I get dead space in my boots no matter what, because I have narrow ankles. If anything, I'd say the dead space in this boot is more uniform, whereas with the runner's loop boot, this is a lot wider here, and this is kind of narrower and tighter here. So the dead space kind of offsets when I do the runner's loop, but here it kind of stays the same. If I maybe pull the tongue to the side, does it really help? Not that much. It is what it is. Yeah, not much I can say about it. In terms of the fit, though, it is pretty glove-like. So I guess if you're trying to stay true to the original Vapor 1, it definitely does that. It wraps your foot like a glove. Actually, a bit too closely, I'm not going to lie. My toes are really pinched up. Or not, I wouldn't say pinch, but this is very close to my toes. Like, I can barely wiggle them. You can kind of see, like, when I kind of raise them where it is. But yeah, I'd say if you want something with a little more room to wiggle your toes, I'd say go up half a size, because this is glove-like and it's like really, really wrapping my toes very snugly. Also, you might want to consider trying thinner grip socks. Again, these are the original, like, kind of pure grip socks from soccerreviewsforyou.com. And they're more on the thicker side. They have a lot more padding. I'm sure if I was wearing my Nike grip socks, this would feel a little more bearable. And I also have blisters across the top of my toes from playing in my Phantom GXs, which have a similar, like, low profile toe box to these. And because I wasn't wearing grip socks the day I wore those, I kind of created these blisters. So it's giving me a lot of pain. But again, like, it's something that you'll have to deal with if you get these boots. just that really close fit. And if you can't handle that, you'll probably need to go up half a size. But in terms of the malleability of the upper, it feels really soft, really smooth, kind of moves with your foot very nicely. I'm trying not to crease them, so that's why I'm taking like these weird steps. And then like just in terms of like on feet looks, the boot looks excellent. I think it looks fantastic. The flash is really bringing out the kind of sparkle that you get in the boots, and it's kind of giving me like, I feel like I'm like, Ronaldo, like low-key. I know that sounds crazy, but I do feel like Ronaldo. You're not really going to get the best look at the sole plate with this angle, but you guys can kind of see the white studs go kind of hard. And yeah, just in general, it's a solid looking boot, solid looking colorway. Very well done. Low-key should have done the lower angle for this, just so you guys could get a better look. But yeah, I really mess with these boots. I think they look really good, and I'm honestly pretty glad to have bought them. Also, let me know what you guys think in the comments if you want. Tongue on or tongue off? Personally, I think the tongue off looks a lot better, but I guess the tongue also brings back some like kind of nostalgia, some classiness to the boots. Kind of reminds you of the old school Tiempo kind of tongue. I don't know why, but it's just giving that. But anyways, yeah, let's close this video out. I've rambled on long enough. Let's get to some final thoughts. So yeah, guys, that's it really for the unboxing of this football boot. Again, just to kind of summarize what I talked about, it's a pretty nice, I guess, resto mod or like recreation of what the Vapor 1 was, and it's a nice way to kind of bring 2002 to 2025. If you want to be using the Vapor 1 in the big 2025, common joke said these days, then I'd probably recommend getting these because they do a really good job of like, executing on the shape, the construction, on like just the overall tech and making it a really modern, solid kind of option to kind of use today. With regards to that heel area, I mean, like, it is what it is. Aesthetically, I guess to some people, it may not be the most aesthetically pleasing thing ever, but to me, I don't mind it. I think it looks good. And if you have grip socks and you can do the runner's loop, you should be fine fitting into these. Again, in terms of my sizing recommendations, I would recommend either go true to size if you want the glove-like fit, or go half a size up if you want some breathing room in the toes, because these have a very low profile toe box, and it's something that can be kind of uncomfortable for some people. But otherwise, great outsole, pretty solid upper, pretty decent heel area, and I can't really complain in terms of my personal preference. I actually wasn't going to buy any of the regens. Obviously, when I saw the Ronaldo Fundamental versions, the Chrome Limes, I was like, okay, those are pretty dope. Would love to get those, but they sold out instantly, and they only have 4,500 pairs. So that's that. Then you have the Dark Cinders and these, and like I kind of was over it, was targeting some other colorways. But then when I saw the Shock Oranges, I was like, you know what? Like, I mess with these. I don't know what it is about them, but let's just get them. So it was honestly an impulse buy, and I'm not regretting it because I think the boots look really good. And I really fuck with it. It's going to be a nice collection piece, just a nice collector's piece. I'll probably wear it maybe once or twice, probably for like a TikTok session, maybe for like a YouTube session, maybe some free kicks. You know what? I might go to the pitch and, just try and just recreate some of Ronaldo, CR7, Ronaldo's freaking, knuckleball free kicks. Cause, I'm absolutely obsessed with the knuckleball free kick. So what better way than to, practice it and using, the boots that he used to kind of score some of those free kicks, right? It'd be pretty cool. But yeah, pretty proud of this purchase. If you want to still get it, I'd recommend acting fast because being a remake, it will sell out quickly. These are $390 Canadian. I'll put up some prices for like other regions down below. But yeah, they're not cheap, but if you get them, it'll probably be a good piece for you because they will sell out and they will probably have their resale value go up way up due to the fact that it's a remake of a really nostalgic football boot. But yeah, that's it for this unboxing. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, drop a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned as I have plenty of other videos coming soon, including other boot reviews, ball unboxings and reviews, more boot unboxings, training sessions, footy talks, all of it. It's coming out. This is going to be a great summer full of content for stuff to you guys to enjoy. So without all said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.